Yo, what's going on YouTube? We're back with another Hytale video. There's now only a few days left until the early access and the devs have been dropping some new content ahead of release, so I'll be covering the creation tools and some of the new stuff in a separate video. But what I want to focus on today is giving my genuine opinion on Hytale in its current state, why I think it will launch bad, but ultimately still win and change the gaming industry in the long term. More specifically, I want to talk about some of the skepticism surrounding Hytale ever since Simon bought it back from Riot and effectively saved the game. There's been a lot of misconceptions, a lot of comparisons to Minecraft, and a lot of people saying the game is going to fail. As someone who's been following Hytale's development for about 7 years, I wanted to give my own assessment based on all the information we actually have available today. And to do that, I want to respond to a few specific points from a recent video made by Mogswamp, a massive Minecraft YouTuber with over 2 million subscribers, because the arguments he raises in that video are the same ones I'm seeing repeated all over social medias and various online forums. And I think some of the concerns are fair, but I just disagree with the conclusions and I want to explain why. So I'm going to discuss some of the points he made in that video. Here's one of the things he said.
Hype for Hytale, it was resold to the original dev. I have a bunch of skepticism about Hytale, but I want it to do well. I don't even want to say I'm hyped for Hytale, because I think the hype is literally killing that game. I think the hype to that game is like cancer. I actually feel like if we hype it, if we keep hyping this game the way the community has been doing, it's going to fail 100 trillion%. Like, there's a reason the game never came out after like a decade. Clearly it was in some sort of development hell. It was having some issues. Clearly it wasn't fun or releasable. And now they're just releasing it. And I strongly feel that if everybody keeps hyping it up and doesn't give it the time it needs to blossom, then yeah, it's going to be DOA, dead on arrival.
So really there are two claims being made here, and I want to respond to both of them. The first one being his take on hype, which I partly agree with and mostly disagree with. Here's why. I agree that hype can be dangerous. Overhyping any game and promising the moon is a great way to set yourself up for disappointment, yeah. But I think it really depends on why the hype exists. In Hytale's case, I don't think the vast majority of people are excited because they expect this flawless revolutionary game that's just going to destroy Minecraft on day one. If you've been following the game closely, the developers have been extremely clear that the game is unfinished, rough, and it will launch in a bad state. That's not a secret being hidden away, it's being said openly and directly. So I think the hype around Hytale isn't coming from people thinking the game will be perfect at launch. It's coming from the fact that something genuinely unprecedented happened. This was basically a dead game parked inside a massive corporation like Riot. Under normal circumstances, this game would never see the light of day again, but Simon just reclaimed the IP, turned around and said, here you go, it's bad right now, but we're going to keep working on it until it lives up to its potential. And that's why people are excited. Hype is only bad when it doesn't live up to expectations, and most people are not expecting Hytale to destroy Minecraft. People are just happy that the game got saved in an unprecedented way, and now they have the opportunity to work with its creative tools. That's exactly what they're getting. Now, on the other point where Mogswamp says Hytale was in development for 10 years, which means clearly the game is unplayable, I think this is just a misinterpretation on his part, and there are actually two separate things to address here. The first is the assumption that because the game was unplayable under Riot, those problems somehow transfer to the new team. But Riot was rebuilding the entire engine and trying to create a Roblox style platform on day one. So yeah, under Riot's scope, the game was unplayable. But that scope no longer exists. The current team is operating under a fundamentally different vision. The second point is about development time in general. Long development time isn't intrinsically bad, it means nothing on its own unless you understand what that time was actually spent on. A good example of this is Fortnite. Fortnite was in development for 7 years and they spent that time building a PvE focused game with good foundations. But the Battle Royale mode, that was stitched together in the last 2 months of development when the devs realized the genre was taking off. And we all know how that worked out for them. The thing to keep in mind is, that pivot only compounded because the bones of the game were already strong, and they just took advantage of the right vision. I think Hytale is in a similar position now. The Riot vision is gone, but the foundations remain. Deep modding support, creator tools, machinima systems, and flexible server hosting, with the current vision aligning more closely with what players and creators actually want. Those bones give Hytale the ability to move fast and compound in the right direction, and I think that's something a lot of doubters are overlooking. But then Mogswamp also makes a really interesting comparison to Cyberpunk and Fallout 76. Here's the clip.
Like, I've seen this so many times before. Cyberpunk 2027 or 2077. Everybody was like, this will be the greatest video game ever created. And it was so disappointing on launch that, like, even though they fixed it, that game will forever have that stain. Fallout 76, another great example. I was so hyped for it when I first saw that trailer. The trailer was insane. The hype was out of this world. And that game on launch was an unmitigated disaster, dude. It was horrible. And it never really recovered from that, even though they fixed some stuff. Like I never played it. I never bought it. It was that bad that, like, I never even bought it. So I feel like we're in a similar state with Hytale right now.
Now, I think this analogy to Cyberpunk and Fallout 76 doesn't really hold up at all, so this is the point I disagree with the most. And the reason is, Cyberpunk launched in the state that it did because of corporate greed. It was sold at full price to an audience that was promised a finished, revolutionary game. So when they got something broken with no transparency, yeah, it left a stain. And even then, by the way, Cyberpunk is still considered by many people today to be one of the greatest games of all times and a game that changed the industry, but that's besides the point. The point is, Hytale is in the complete opposite situation. Hytale was almost ruined by corporate greed when Riot acquired it, cancelled it, and then told the community, you're never getting this. And then you have effectively one guy, Simon, stepping in like, yeah, I'm going to buy this from you. He single-handedly reclaims the IP of a dead game from one of the biggest companies in the industry into the hands of a small, passionate team, and then says to the community, yeah, we're gonna give this to you now. It's gonna be bad, but we're not gonna make you wait any longer, and I'm personally committing to a 10-year funding plan. Here's all the creation tools we have. Come help us shape this into a game that it could become. Also, we're going to make it $20 because we know it's not great yet. Now, I think that's a very different situation to Cyberpunk or Fallout. A bad launch is only a stain when the customers are literally lied to. When a tiny team recovers a dead game from a major corporation and immediately gives it to the players at a discounted price while working tirelessly to improve it, I don't think that's a stain. I think it's a badge of honor that they should be proud of. But anyway, then Mogswamp talks a little bit about Minecraft and how Hytale will never truly scratch Minecraft. Here's the clip.
I've just seen this happen too many times where people hype a game so much to just this completely unrealistic standard. Like, people saying it's gonna kill Minecraft. You're delusional. You're Delulu, girl. You're absolutely Delulu. Minecraft has a 15-year head start. It was a genre-defining game. They have a second movie in production. They've done 2 spin-off games. There's no way. There's not a chance in hell that Hytale can even put a scratch in Minecraft's numbers. There's just no way. So if that's what you're telling yourself, like in the lead up to Hytale being released, then you're just setting yourself up for like an immense amount of disappointment. If we can hold back the hype and give this game like a year to just do its own thing and try to find its audience and its own community, then maybe it could be like Vintage Story and it could have like a nice little niche of its own within the voxel game genre. I could totally see a world where Hytale has a cool community that, you know, serves a different player base than Minecraft and kind of like Vintage Story.
Now, this is where we get into the comparisons between Minecraft and Hytale, and then it becomes this unproductive competition about whether Hytale is going to perform so well that every Minecraft player abandons Minecraft and switches over permanently. In my opinion, it's a pointless argument, because Hytale isn't racing to beat Minecraft. That's not Hytale's North Star metric. The only people who care about that framing are trolls on Twitter or people who don't understand the game, so engaging in that debate is a waste of time. There's this weird rhetoric going around that either Hytale is going to kill Minecraft or it has to end up as some small niche game, and that framing just doesn't reflect reality. That's like saying back in 2010 that Netflix can only succeed if it kills YouTube, otherwise it's going to stay niche. Like, yeah, there are some similarities between the two, but they were never in the same lane. And it's the same thing here. Hytale doesn't need to kill Minecraft to be a success. It can be a globally recognized, industry-changing game and still exist right alongside it. But then Mogswamp made another comparison to a different game, Cube World. And I actually found this quite funny because he said that the situation is exactly the same as with Cube World. And I found that really interesting. It goes to show that he probably hasn't looked that deeply into Hytale itself, because if you look a little bit further past the surface, you'll know that the situations are entirely different.
I bet Hytale's gonna end up like Cube World. Exactly. Dude, I think that's why I feel so strongly about this, is because this is literally just Cube World. Do you guys remember Cube World? You're probably too young. There was a game that was basically just Hytale, and it was called Cube World, and people hyped it so much. And I believe what happened was like an alpha for the game came out. It was really good. And then years went by, the developer went silent. And then a couple years later, they finally released it. And it was super disappointing and everybody hated it. And it basically just insta-died. Like, it was never heard from again. And that is my biggest fear for Hytale. I think we're barreling towards that inevitability, unless people can kind of get their expectations under control.
So this is another comparison that I really just don't get, and saying Hytale is exactly like Cube World doesn't make sense to me. Cube World failed because it went silent, disappeared, and then reappeared without transparency or direction. They then published a completely different game loop. Hytale has done the opposite. They went quiet, yeah, because the game was under different leadership, but now the original devs have reacquired the game, brought it back to the original vision, and are communicating clearly, setting expectations, and committing publicly to long-term development without a major publisher breathing down their neck. Those two situations are not the same. But that's just my take based on following the development of the game for 7 years, and this is no hate to Mogswamp, by the way. He himself has said that he wants Hytale to do well, and having huge creators like him wishing the game well is really good. I just wanted to clear up some misconceptions because I've been seeing them way too often, and this was a great example of some of the arguments being made against the game. I do think Hytale will launch in a bad state, but I just don't think it's going to leave a stain. If you ask me, Hytale is exactly where it needs to be. And we're all gonna get to play it soon, so I guess we'll see for ourselves. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. I have 3 subscribers at the time I'm making this video, so it would really help me out. Thanks for watching, and peace out.